Action! Okay, I wanted to give you guys an update on our solar install. We've got all these flexible solar panels, and we've installed a good bit here on top of our hardtop. Now, the hardtop is fiberglass, and it's got some foam core on the inside to help maintain its shape when it's in the mold and give it structural rigidity. Now, on top of the hardtop, we have 3 175 watt panels and a 100 watt panel that are all wired in parallel. What allows us to do that is the voltage output of the larger 175 watt panels and the 100 watt panel are very, very close, and the amperage is different, but that doesn't matter as much when you're talking about parallel. So we're only talking about less than a 1% loss across the whole string by putting the 100. We did that just because of space allotment. It's a curved surface on a boat, and nothing's going to be perfect. Now, you can see here the boom is pulled a little bit to the side right now. We don't have much of an aisle, but when it's straightened up, we have about 1.5 feet on either side to walk to service the boom while you're under sail. You can still walk on these, and we retained that because there are some bolt heads here. We put some insulation foam underneath that raised it up just enough where we can walk on these panels without damaging. I've been excited about these panels because they've had really good output. It's January, it's almost February, I'm in Florida. The sun's angle isn't great. Sorry, I've got a crow right up here. So we don't have maximum radius during the day. And while we're sitting still, we've got a busted engine. If you're following us everywhere else, we're not running our engines. We're sitting still waiting for the engines to come ready. So while we're doing that, I've got this set up where I can put another string in. My original design was using a 40 amp charge controller MPPT, but I upsized that to a 50. And the 50 amp allows me to throw a lot more power in. So I've got an extra panel here, I've got some secured up on the trampoline, and then I found a design flaw in my setup. The incoming breaker going into my charge controller, I've got a 40 amp breaker, and it is a 50 amp output. Well, coming in, these are all 10 gauge wires all the way back, should not experience a big voltage loss. And then when they all combine together at the biggest one, I've got 8 gauge wires going into there. I go down to a flag DC breaker that is 40 amps. The voltage is almost, it's 22 volts. So there's not a lot of amps going through there. I've overrated it a little bit, but I use it as an isolation breaker. Coming out of the MPPT, I've got a 50 amp breaker. And what I've found is it's rated for 50 amps at 12 volts. So when I get over 600 watts out of this string for any length of time, it trips that breaker, as it should. Coming out of my charge controller, I've got 6 gauge wire, so I'm not worried about the insulation and that conductor being damaged with the output from this charge controller. I'm gonna have to go back and upsize that output breaker to make sure that it doesn't trip prematurely, and any voltage loss across that doesn't account for a big loss in charging. This whole setup was relatively easy. I've been fortunate to just be able to get this extra power and not have to run the generator very much, and get us through this time while we're kind of in limbo. Once we get down a little bit further south and into more of the summer months, this bank of power, or this array of power here, is really going to be able to sustain us a lot better on a day-to-day basis. I'm excited about that. So that wraps up this for now, and we'll do another segment sometime soon.